Welcome to Helpful Humans, the podcast about people who are creating good in our world by helping and empowering others. I'm Kim Drobes, and I'm honored to share these stories with you. They get to the heart of who we are as human beings while exploring our inherent desire to make a difference.
Honestly, I'm saving this as a surprise. Nobody in my family knows that I've been attending school for 6 months, believe it or not. Nobody knows.
That's Dominique. She's a current student at EDWINS Leadership Restaurant Institute in Cleveland, Ohio. Dominique is almost finished with her training at EDWINS, and she really didn't want me to underestimate just how big of a surprise her upcoming graduation is going to be for her family.
Because I'm known to be a quitter. I just didn't have the confidence in myself. And going through this program, I've discovered things about myself that I don't think I would have ever discovered hadn't I came here. So when I graduate, they're not going to believe it. They're going to be like, no, Dominique, you was just working at the corner store for 6 months. Like, no, I was actually doing something. So I wanted to be a total surprise to my family. And trust me, it was not easy keeping this information from these people for that long.
About 6 months ago, Dominique was in a period of her life where she wasn't sure what her next move should be. She literally stumbled upon Edwin's when out walking one day.
And I walked in because, I didn't recognize the place. So when I walked in, I saw, it was just a beautiful setup. So I asked, I said, well, is this the restaurant? And the people that were here, it wasn't open yet. They was like, no, it's a school. So I did all my research that I could to find more out about it.
So here's what she learned. EDWINS Leadership Restaurant Institute is unlike any other school around. It's a free 6-month program and an intensive immersion into culinary skills and hospitality know-how, and it was designed specifically for people who need a second chance. Because the founder of EDWINS, Brandon Krastowski, believes a second chance is possible for everyone. Brandon grew up in Detroit, and by his teens, he was often getting into serious trouble, and eventually he got arrested.
I got arrested. I was, I don't know if I was 18 and a half or 19, but it was right there. My arrest was unique because they came to the door to arrest me because we weren't caught at the scene. And the judge, who was either forgiving or aloof, I'm not sure which, told me that I had more to offer, and from that point I got probation instead of 5 to 10 years in prison.
The magnitude of that judge's decision was not lost on Brandon. Probation without a prison sentence, that was a gift, and he was getting a second chance. Although Brandon had started working at 15, by 19 he had held over 20 different jobs. Nothing quite stuck.
Yeah, my attention span was brief. There was nothing that ever caught my interest for good. I worked as delivered papers. I worked at a gas station, a grocery store, an ice cream shop, a bowling alley, a florist, putting in pools, carpet. You name it. I was just all over the place. But it wasn't until I found this job in a restaurant that I said to myself, this is something I love. I just knew I belonged right then and there. That's where I belonged, and that's where I met my chef. That ended up mentoring me and giving me lessons that allowed me to succeed in life and in the kitchen.
To this day, Brandon credits that chef with changing his life. He had never had a true mentor before, and the motivation and clarity that set in propelled Brandon into high gear. From there, he went to the Culinary Institute of America, and after graduation, he went to Paris, working in a 3-star Michelin restaurant. Along the way, Brandon often reflected on that break that he was given. He thought about friends that didn't get that type of break, and how much harder their lives had turned out to be. He thought specifically of people he knew that ended up in prison. They served time, and upon their release, they still couldn't find their way. He learned just how difficult re-entry after prison is for so many reasons. Number one being an inability to find work. So an idea started to form in Brandon's head. A nonprofit, a unique merger of restaurant and school where people returning to society could learn, work, and thrive, all while training hands-on in a fine dining French restaurant. That's the seed that would eventually become EDWINS Restaurant and Leadership Institute.
I wrote this business plan in 2004, And the doors of the restaurant didn't open until November 1st, 2013. No, there's no formula for this, right? This has never been built before, and I don't know nonprofits. I just said I'll work hard and I'll make it work. Back to school to understand the business plans and how to write these sort of things. And I just started working in Manhattan and working in restaurants as a maitre d', as a sommelier, making sure I understood every aspect of the restaurant. So when I look at things, I look at them very primitively, right? So when I said, where am I going to do this, I looked to the worst high school graduation rate, and that was Cleveland, Ohio. Figured in 1998, when I graduated high school, this is the people who didn't have a mentor like I did. And it was simple as that.
Brandon moved to Cleveland in 2009 and continued to get his plan together to eventually open EDWINS. He was gaining traction for the project, but he knew that it would take more time and more money to open the Restaurant/Culinary Institute, and he was itching to do something immediately. And then the idea struck him that he didn't actually have to wait till he had EDWINS the restaurant to start teaching his program. Instead, he could find a way to start teaching immediately, in prisons.
When it came to wanting to start now, I said, well, where can I start now? I don't have the money to build a restaurant. Well, why don't you start teaching in prison? So I just went to a prison. And I came across someone at a meeting who was in probation or parole or whatever. They said, well, you should go talk to this guy. Well, this guy ended up, his name's Adam Kassler, and his goal was to make sure that his prison became the best programming prison in the state. He's a very competitive young man. And he said, well, okay. And it just began, right? I mean, the logic behind this is like so stupid. But in life, if your approach is that simplistic and you know you're going to work hard and you know it's for the betterment of someone, I mean, 11 times out of 10 it works. I'll never forget the first day. I mean, just came in there and just started teaching, and then that was the end of it.
This was at Grafton Correctional Institution in Ohio, and from the onset, Brandon knew that he would need some help. So he put the word out that he was looking for volunteers.
Somehow I had heard about somewhere through social media this guy that was doing this thing, and I found a website.
That's Jerry Grimm. Nowadays, he's the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Culinary at EDWINS. But back in 2011, he was a chef who was just looking for a way to give back in his free time. So he reached out to Brandon.
And I just shot him an email and said, look, here's my resume. I see you're looking for volunteers. And I met him 2 days later, and he was teaching at Grafton Correctional on Sundays, and I started going out with him every Sunday. And it was the highlight of my week. It never touched my life. I had never really given much thought to men and women in prison. I was just looking to try to give back. And when I started going out there, and it was so much fun. I mean, literally, it was just, we were teaching all the fundamentals of cooking. And when you work with men and women inside prison, it always leaves, at least me, and I think most people do it, I'm energized. And every Sunday I'd leave there just feeling full of optimism and vigor. At the heart of it all, what I saw in these men was hope, that there was someone out there fighting for them and trying, when upon their release, do something to give them a better life.
One of those men was DeAnthony Harris.
I found out about the opportunity from another inmate inside that was currently taking the program.
For DeAnthony, motivation to succeed in the program was easy to find.
I wanted to go because of the simple fact of I was learning so much and getting educated on an aspect that I've never knew about. French cuisine is something that I've never even knew nothing about. The way that the classes was run was we would get homework a lot, and we would do a lot of stuff throughout the week and then report back on the weekends with Brandon or the teachers or chefs or whatever that come in that day. It's very, very intense, and you have to really want it.
Here's COO Jerry Grimm again.
It's about breaking the recidivism cycle. That's what we're doing. It's a vicious cycle. People get out, no one will hire them, they go back. Our recidivism rate is less than 1%
Amazing.
Of EDWINS graduates. It is.
Less than 1%. According to the Bureau of Justice, about 33% of inmates are back in prison within a year, and around 50% are back within 3 years. EDWIN's rate of less than 1% is nothing short of stunning.
It's just, you give someone a set of skills. You make them feel good about themselves. You give them confidence. That's what we do. Because, restaurants are fair. They truly are. Hard work, dedication is paid off. Chef that owns that restaurant doesn't care about your background, where you came from, your beliefs, or anything like that. What they care about is hard work. And no matter where you've been or what you've done, if you dedicate yourself to that, then you can be successful.
Jerry was so taken with his time teaching at Grafton that when Brandon asked Jerry to join him in realizing the dream of EDWINS Restaurant and Leadership Institute, Jerry didn't hesitate. He was definitely in. But they still needed to find a restaurant. And although they were gaining attention and the funds were starting to come in, they weren't exactly loaded, and finding a space proved challenging.
I knew I had to steal a restaurant. I couldn't buy one, I had to steal one. But, being in the industry and having good friends and mentors, someone told me this restaurant that was bleeding, they weren't paying their bills, they were paying their staff inconsistently. And I knew that this is the opportunity. It was between two neighborhoods of good and bad. You have public transportation. And I just went in there and said, look, man, it's, $50,000 is the best I can do. So $50,000 with equipment, liquor license, everything. So everything was paid for. I didn't carry any notes. In my personal account, not the business account, I had $10.84 when I opened up. Yep.
So there it was. For $50,000, Brandon finally had a brick and mortar building for EDWINS. When getting the restaurant ready to open, Jerry remembers how hands-on they had to be in order to keep their costs down.
So we found a restaurant, and they sort of had a bigger bar area. So they had a lot of big bar stools. So we cut a lot of them down. We had a carpenter that I think did most of the work for free. We had an upholsterer that upholstered all the banquettes and reupholstered the chairs for very minimum. We had volunteers helping painting the bathroom. Rented scaffolding and painted the ceiling ourselves. We had an 8-year-old recommend that because the glass behind the bar was engraved with the old restaurant's logo, and to replace that is incredibly expensive. She was Mary Margaret. She was 8 years old, and she goes, why don't you paint it with chalkboard paint? So we painted the glass with chalkboard paint and, got an artist, and she got some chalk and, put the menu up there and cocktails.
And just like that, EDWINS was ready to open. Brandon remembers that first week vividly.
And we started to attract three types of people: the people who really believed that there was something here, the people who had nothing better to do, and people who just wanted to see it fail. Like they just wanted to be around for this debacle. But the thing is, I knew that expectations would be like this. They would be kind of low and unsure. But I knew that the experience they received was going to hit like a hammer. We've never done, to this day, the numbers that we did those first 6 months we opened up. And when that happened the first couple of weeks, of course, and the press wants to say, well, what's going on, how's it work? That word gets out. We started to have a steady revenue stream. And then it was just about, really in the business sense, maintaining that with all the turnover of staff, because, staff changes over every couple of weeks.
Now, all restaurants are used to staff turnover, right? It comes with the business. But at EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute, turnover takes on a whole new meaning because the restaurant is technically the school. So students learn and work, and then they graduate and leave. Jerry breaks it down.
It's a 6-month program, and they spend 3 months in the kitchen and then 3 months in the front of the house. It's a very intense program. It's about 50 hours a week. When they're in the front of the house, they learn food running, bartending, hosting, and serving. And the back of the house education is twofold. It's all about the cooking fundamentals. What are the mother sauces? How to properly cook green vegetables, potatoes. How to make today. The class today is we're going to make mayonnaise. In the front of the house, they learn about liquor and spirits and wine service. And we start a new class every 3 months, and we will enroll about anywhere between 60 to 70 students. After 6 months, we've hired a couple people on a needed basis, but almost all the graduates go and find new jobs. We're in almost 100 restaurants, I believe. As restaurants hired more and more and our graduates were successful, now they're calling us more and more. Hey, I need more people. We've proven ourselves. They want to hire our students.
As the school and the restaurant became quickly successful, Brandon realized that student housing needed to be his next goal.
At the onset, the idea was to build the best culinary school in the country, right? And by building that, we would show the world that every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future. So when that's the thought process, the campus was an original thought of saying, to have the best school, you have to have a place for people to live. What accelerated this was the amount of people who didn't have a home or were living in the environment that they did, shelter or family environment where someone didn't want them to do this program. They didn't want them to succeed in this. It had to happen. It had to happen now, is because you ask everything out of somebody. We were asking everything out of them. What are the grapes in Bordeaux? Where is Bordeaux? What is Bordeaux? Let's talk about wine. you're just asking someone to come out of where they're comfortable. How can we ask that out of somebody when we couldn't even ask more out of ourselves?
Edwin's Second Chance Life Skills campus is vast and includes student dorms, alumni housing, a test kitchen, a fitness center, even a bee farm on the roof. It's just a short walk to the restaurant, and students can live there practically for free. Jerry explains.
How it works is our students receive a small stipend, and it's $200. It's not much, but it's better than paying for school. It's $200 a month, plus they get a split of the contributions. The contributions are, when you go to a restaurant, you get your bill and there's a tip line. Since we were a 501(c)(3), instead of tip, it says contribution. So any student that's here that day, those contributions are split and go to the students. So if they live in the dorms, we take $100 of that, of their stipend. But then when they move out, we give it back to them.
That's
the belief
awesome.
being that if someone's living there for 6 months, when they graduate here and if they're ready to move out, they get a check for, say, around $550, and that's going to be enough for them to help find a new place, like first month deposit. We have classes. We teach at the Life Skills Center. So if you're living in the dorms, they have classes once a week that our case manager teaches, and they learn things like banking, how to open a credit account, how do you look for an apartment, things like that.
DeAnthony Harris, whom we heard from earlier, was released from Grafton Prison before he finished the program. So he immediately went to Edwin's Restaurant and Leadership Institute to finish up.
I was released October of 2015, and I finished upon my release.
And was that a hard transition?
It was not a hard transition because of the resources that I had at my hand, and that was all because of Edwin's, because I needed to finish the program to be able to receive my certificate. So when I got out, I had just different resources to be able to help my transition with things that I needed, or just to be able to help me just get ahead.
At one point when Jerry and I were talking, he had told me that it's rare that a graduate will get hired on as an employee at Edwin's, but DeAnthony is the exception to that rarity, and he's currently employed as their resident advisor.
I manage the Life Skills Center, the dorms, and the alumni house. It's a lot, but, I got help. We're a family. We all work together. I stay on property, and I'm interacting with students on a daily basis. I make myself available, because when they come out, most of them don't have a phone, so they might not be in contact with people. So they might just want to be able to talk about things. How did I go through the program, the things that I'm doing? I think that most people that I see that comes out will be wanting to open up to somebody that's been out.
So back to Dominique and her approaching graduation date. Her plans for the future are becoming clearer. For starters, she's trying to get a job at a local university's dining hall.
If you work for them, then either your education is free or discounted. And I'm just not going to stop here. All I need is a little bit of business savvy, and it's going to take off.
And she'll need that business savvy for her next step. Dominique has a dream to someday start a business that brings fine dining to the elderly.
I want to work with my senior citizens. That is where my passion is. So what I wanted to do was, after I get a little bit more education, set up round to the nursing homes and set up where, it's fine dining for them, nice music, just to make them,
That's such a great idea.
I think it's been on my mind and my heart before I came to Edwin's. I said, it's something I want to give back to my seniors, because if it wasn't for them, half of us wouldn't have made it out here.
We're looking for people who are looking for that second chance in life, whether this is pre-entry or re-entry. If their lives are in a position where they're going to go to prison or coming out of prison, that's who we're here to serve.
Theme music for Helpful Humans is provided by the amazingly talented K. Michelle Dubois. Check out Michelle's latest offerings at her website, kmichelledubois.com, or search for her on Spotify. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you happen to listen to your podcasts. I would very much appreciate it. Thanks for listening.